Welcome to A Novel Console, your weekly podcast where we talk about books, games, food, and stuff that caught our attention during the week. My name is Chris, and with me I have Bill from the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. We're talking loading memories this week. Bill, how are you doing today?
Hey, Chris, how's it going? It's been quite a week, quite a month, honestly. 2024 is starting off great.
Right? Like going to do your taxes and thinking you're going to get money back, and no, you actually owe an exorbitant amount of money. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I got to still do those.
Yeah, I'm holding on till the last minute to submit them because I don't want to submit them now and they be like, oh, you need to pay like right now, because I am not about that life.
Yeah. So I'm afraid to look because I moved states last year, and I already know that's going to be a mess. So,
oh yeah, I did the taxes for Georgia, and I owe like $800. I'm like, I've only been here like 6 months. What the fuck are you guys talking about? That I owe you money?
Yeah. Oh, gotta love
it's insane.
Gotta love taxes.
Oh yeah, but hey, at least you're on a novel console finally after so many months of talking about getting you on. You're finally here, and we're talking about games you grew up with and all that stuff. Kind of mostly like your show. Tell me about your show where you and your sister talk about games and stuff that you guys enjoyed growing up.
Yeah, so Gaming and Collecting is kind of like, it's one of the more, it's probably one of the more relaxed podcasts you'll find in the gaming podcast sphere. Basically, it's every Saturday, me and my sister Alex will talk about different games and animes from our childhood, go over different things. Sometimes we'll just do like completely off the wall episodes. And the kind of gimmick behind the episode is it's very raw and realistic. Like, it's very much a brother and sister doing a podcast, just talking about stuff that they grew up with. And it gets really weird sometimes. Like, Alex can get very off the walls at times, and I have to reel her in. It's pretty fun though. We go through games. We have an ongoing series called Anime Swap, where we each pick an anime, and the gimmick is the animes don't have to be similar at all. We basically have to watch each and then compare them and see how we felt about them at the end, which is kind of fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I gotta say, I love how unhinged your sister can get sometimes, because the episode could be going normal, you guys both talking, and then out of nowhere she just goes into like, I kind of want to call it like little sister sumis, because my sister does the same thing, where she just completely like takes off and you don't know where the hell it's gonna go.
Oh, the best is when she'll get like distracted by something, and then like she'll completely just change topics. Like she'll be like, hey, look, my cat. And just like completely be off on a tangent for a bit. Or like her new thing is she keeps trying to do this like ASMR voice. And I have a very notably low voice, and she's always like, do the ASMR. I'm like, I physically cannot get my voice that low. It's just impossible. But yeah, it's basically.
You also have, I'm sorry, go ahead. I
was just going to say, it's basically just two siblings chatting for about an hour every Saturday.
It's so much fun. I tried to do an episode with my sister once on Patreon. I think we talked about one of the Captain America movies, and my sister doesn't shut up in person. And the entire episode, I would have to coerce her to say something, and she would just give me like one-word answers. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
So I get it. You also have the 3DO experience and Geek Addicts.
Yes.
You have 3DO with Thrak and Geek Addicts with Matt.
Yes.
Tell me about those two.
So the 3DO experience is probably the most, I guess you could say, structured podcast I currently do. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is a retrospective podcast where me and Thrak, who you probably have heard on Novel Console a few times, we basically talk about...
Yeah.
Yeah. We discuss all things the 3DO console, the company behind it, and everything in between. Sometimes we'll cover a game. Other times we'll talk about, say, like a developer that was very big on the console. Or sometimes we'll just talk about, like, say something random, like maybe like controllers. Or last week we talked about two of the console like variations and how different they were from each other. Just stuff like that. We go on random tangents every now and then, because what's a podcast without random tangents that have nothing to do with the topic at hand?
Right. Like, Friday I recorded with Josh from Still Loading, which is probably going to come out the week after this one. And we recorded for like 2 hours, and most of the 2 hours were just tangents of us talking about other stuff other than him growing up playing games.
That Josh is like one of the best because like I actually got to meet him in person at Retro World last year, and me, him, and Alex hung out for pretty much the entire weekend. We kind of broke off to do different things every now and then, but there was one of the funniest things I ever see is like, so a running joke over on G&C is that Alex has like this weird obsession with the Atari Jaguar, and she can't stand the N64 for whatever reason. And we came across a booth that legit had an N64 and a Jaguar sitting right on top of this like table. And they just went off on this whole like tangent about how Alex was claiming that the Jaguar was the greatest thing ever created, and Josh was defending the N64, and they just went back and forth for like 20 minutes. And the lady that was running the stall came over like twice, and like she looked like she was about to start like try to like ask them if they were interested or something, but she would get like she would just didn't know what to say to like this like weird discussion that was going on, and she'd walk away, and then she'd come back, and then she'd walk away, and eventually she just was like, never mind. I just walked away, was gone forever.
It's so funny that your sister likes the Jaguar. I think I've only seen one Jaguar in person. And I think there was like this super shitty F1 racing game on it. And that's all I remember, like the weird ass graphics and playing it. But I understand that it's a weird console, and that appeals to people. But I have to go with the 64 on that one. I'm sorry, Alex. I got to go with 64.
So I don't know if she actually really likes the Jaguar, if it's just a joke. She does legitimately hate the N64, though. That's an actual legitimate hatred.
I want to know why, because I know why some of our community members hate it, specifically Burger Champ. But I don't know why other people would hate it, because it's such a... Well, I guess you guys are younger than I am, because I am 33 and I grew up. Well, my formative years were right there when the 64 was relevant. So to me, it's kind of an important console, even though I kind of like dismiss it at times when I shouldn't. But, you know. Tell me about Geek Addicts.
So Geek Addicts is my newest show. It recently started late last year. And it's not so much an original show, it's more of a spin-off of G&C that it releases at the same time, like in the G&C feed every Tuesday. It is basically, the idea behind Geek Addicts is it's basically me and my buddy Matt, who I've known pretty much since like, God, I want to say 2016-ish. We used to hang out all the time before I moved states, and it's hard for us to keep in touch. So I figured, you know what, we should start like a podcast and just chat every Friday and just like kind of go over some stuff, talk about games, anime, manga, books. And we essentially settled on a pop culture podcast this time around that basically has a whole number of topics we can cover. And the whole thing is, it's basically, our approach to that one is similar to G&C, where it's basically just two friends shooting the shit for God knows how long, because we don't have a time limit on that one. Like, our first episode was talking about just Dragon Ball in general, and we went for almost 4 hours.
Yeah, I listened to your recent Dragon Ball Z games episode, and I that was a fun time, because it brought me back to all of these Dragon Ball games that I've played that I completely forgot about, like Raging Blast. I completely forgot that was a thing, and that it had the Hachi Jack movie in it. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see what you guys say about the Legacy of Goku games, because you guys said that you were going to do like a separate series on it.
At some point, I know he's playing them right now. I have to sit around and get to those. Like, it's kind of like one of those things where it's going to happen eventually, but there's no set time frame, because Geek Addicts is very off the cuff. Like, we just kind of do what we think of at the time. Like, we have a few ongoing series. Like, we're going out of our way to cover like all the cover a whole bunch of live action adaptions of different anime properties. Like, we did the Rurouni Kenshin film, which was really good, and then we did the Netflix Death Note film, which was not very good. And then we're doing like an ongoing series where we're covering the Pokemon Adventures manga, which has been very interesting going through the first time and seeing just how I'm amazed Nintendo lets that fly, to be perfectly honest.
Right. I started reading that Pokemon Adventures and I got all the way up to Yellow, and then I kind of lost interest.
Yeah,
I should go back because those first chapters were great, but they were so fucking weird. They like did not fit the whole Pokemon universe.
yeah. The third arc is a little weird, just the way they handled like Red like disappearing and like all these side characters that you have to know. It makes sense towards the end of it because the next section we're going to be covering is like the gold, silver, and crystal stuff. So I'm really looking forward to jumping into that. Actually, got to start reading that pretty shortly, but yeah, we got to. That one's more of a chill kind of podcast, kind of just a midweek, just kind of like going through just different things.
Yeah, that one is it's a very fun podcast. Like it's one of those podcasts where it's long enough where it takes me to work and back home. So I've been really enjoying whenever you guys drop an episode about something that I'm like, oh shit, I need to listen to this. Like the Dragon Ball games and the Kenshin, and there was another one early on when you guys started that I really enjoyed. I can't remember, but yeah, no. Yeah, you you keep making the joke whenever we record about you doing this to yourself and being a masochist. Like running 3 podcasts is insane, dude. How do you find the time to edit them?
So that's the fun part. I don't. So for a lot of people who will notice any G&C Podcast Network show, it's literally the most edited one is 3DO, and even that is a stretch to be honest. I really enjoy the idea of a podcast being like a raw, just kind of like hit press play and see where it goes kind of thing. And
right.
I've kind of stuck by that. I rarely have to edit, mostly because like, to me, like editing is like, say like a swear or something. Well, not even a swear, because most swears, who cares at this point? There's like certain things I would edit out, but like I've never run into a case with any co-host or guest where they've said something that was objectionable, because people know better at this point. So it's like I'm not usually worried about that. And I've never had a guest like that just like I had to like edit at any point. The most
like editing Thrax burps out of the episode.
Oh, I leave that in. Just let it go.
It's just so funny.
I just let it go.
It's like he burps and he doesn't even realize that he did. He just keeps going. And you see, oh, fuck.
I'll leave his. I've had to edit out Alex's burps every now and then because she, for some reason, I don't know why, but like ladies have a tendency to just let out these like gargantuan ones every now and then. And it's happened on GNC a few times, and Alex will legit not go on until I promise I'll remove it. Which I'll remove the burp, but I'll leave in all the references to it after, because I'm like, I'm going to make sure people know it happened. Of course.
You should leave one in, quote unquote, accidentally to see how massive they are, because shit is just funny.
I think I left one in an earlier episode because I forgot to take it out, because it was one of those episodes that I let sit for a while before I put it together. But
right.
I always tell her, like, whenever she's like, she gets like dramatic, she's like, delete that, cut it out. I'm always like, all right, fine, I'll just edit it. I'll edit it out with like a comedy, like cartoon fart noise or something. And she's like, no, that's even worse.
That's funny, man. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link and everything to you have a link tree, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put the link tree on the episode description and everything, so people can go through there and find your show and listen to all of it, because it's great. It's a fun time. But going into why I brought you on here, you obviously grew up playing games, because you have 3 shows that basically talk about games. What were some of your earlier games that you started playing when you were a kid?
So I guess going back, I should probably start with the first video game I ever played. So that was actually Klax for the Game Boy Color, if anyone remembers Klax.
I don't. I have no idea what the fuck that is.
So Klax is a puzzle game that was created by Atari Games back in like the 80s, I want to say. And the whole gimmick is it's essentially little blocks like roll down this like conveyor belt, and you have to catch them. But the gimmick is you have to catch them in like pairs of 3, because they're all different colors. and you can either arrange them horizontal,
Oh.
vertical, or diagonally, and you get different points. And you basically just want to avoid overfilling the little catch basin at the bottom with too many blocks, and you don't want to drop too many because you'll eventually it'll game over on you.
It kind of looks a little bit Tetris-ish, kind of match 3 looking. I can't see it in motion, but that's what it's giving me from the screenshots.
Similar idea. It gets very intense though because like legit the blocks are like rolling down a legit conveyor belt, and you have to like move this little catcher around to get them. And you once you get them in the catcher, you have to drop them down in the catch basin. And if you let too many pile up in your catcher, they'll flop over the top, and you'll lose points. So
I see.
it's a fun little addicting game.
Yeah, I might have to put that on the Steam Deck so that I can check it out, because it doesn't hurt to have a short puzzle game to kill time on your hands. So
it's nice too because it's been released on a ton of old systems. Like there's a Genesis port and an NES port, a Master System, Game Gear, Lynx, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. I think Game Boy Advance is the most recent port, plus the arcade original.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure some of our listeners will probably know what you're talking about. I have never heard of that.
They've probably seen the logo once because it has like this iconic. The logo for Klax is like this. It's like a pink hand doing like a K, the sign language, I believe, for the letter K. It's a pretty well-known cover art just because it was on so many different consoles back in the day, so people probably have seen it before. But the game itself is somewhat obscure these days. But what's really funny is my first system I owned was a Game Boy Color, and I remember because I got it Christmas of '98, I want to say, and I always remember because I got the Game Boy Color, and I got Klax and Mario Brothers Deluxe, and my childhood brain for some reason was gravitated towards Klax over Mario Deluxe, which made it the first game I ever played.
Speaking of Mario Brothers Deluxe, I had a copy of that game, and I didn't buy it. I remember one day in middle school, I was about to go home, and I was walking by this area that had like some benches, and there was like the cartridge just sitting on the bench by itself. Nobody was around, just the cartridge right there. So I grabbed it and took it home. It almost feels like it was like a in Zelda when you find like a chest with like an item in it. It almost felt like that. Like Destiny had left that Mario Brothers Deluxe cartridge right there for me.
Did you pick it up and like raise it above your head? Like
I picked it up and shoved it in my pocket, and then when I got home, because I lived like a mile down the road from the school, I took it out. I'm like, holy shit, it's Mario on the Game Boy. Yeah. And then I played, and I think I beat all of it. And my wife's nephew has it now for his Game Boy Color. He's like 6. And his dad bought him a Game Boy Color with that game, and I tried it. And I have no idea how the fuck I beat that game because the screen crunch is insane.
It's a 2D Mario game with a camera button. Like, think about that for a minute.
What a camera button.
Which is sad though because the game itself is an excellent. It's arguably the best version of Mario 1 in like a lot of ways.
It's sad that the overworld and it have like a bunch of mini games too.
Yeah, there was like the Race Boo mini game. There was these coin mini games, I believe. Had a whole different like art gallery kind of thing. You could switch to Luigi on the fly. It was just a really solid port that they did a really good job on.
Yeah, they just don't do stuff like that anymore. Nintendo doesn't like us like that anymore.
No, they just don't. I mean, they care about certain things, but then at the same time, they don't care about certain things. It's weird.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's an interesting pairing, Klax and Mario. And then after that, it just took off. Like you were just trying to play everything and anything that you could get your hands on.
Yeah. So like after that, we had also gotten a PlayStation 1. For people to know, the PlayStation 1 or the PS1 as it is known as is the smaller redesigned version of the PlayStation that came out around the late 90s, early 2000s. And we had that for, it was a PlayStation that me and Alex shared. That was our first console. And I remember because we had a handful of games. Most of them were shitty license games at the time. Like we had the Rugrats in Paris game that was not great. A whole bunch of these weird, crappy license games. But the couple games that we had that I really remember are, we had Crash 3, which is one of the first games I actually beat back in the day. And we also had a little obscure gem that's getting a bit of recognition nowadays called Tiny Tank, which to me is like one of the most underrated platformers on the original PlayStation. It's essentially a third-person shooter platformer that you play as like a little orange like tank with attitude, and you kind of, it has like third-person shooter elements. You go through a whole bunch of levels. It's not the greatest platformer of all time, but it's fun for what it is.
Tiny Tank. Okay. Oh, why did it correct that to PS2? It's 1. Okay. Yeah, I just added it to the list of games to put on Steam Deck. Because I think Rick Firestone did an episode on it, right?
Yeah, me and Alex have as well. Ours was nowhere near as in depth as Rick's, though. Rick's is, highly recommend checking that one out because they go very in depth with it. And then of course the big game that was kind of like, to me, like the gateway into like the gamer I am today was Final Fantasy VIII. And have you heard the story about how I ended up with 8?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I've told it many a time on different podcasts, but essentially what happened was I had a friend that lived up the street, and he had Final Fantasy VII on his PlayStation. So I had seen 7, like I didn't play 7, but I kind of watched him play it, so I kind of lived it through him. And I remember really wanting it, so when we got the PlayStation, I was like, I really want Final Fantasy VII. So I remember on my Christmas wish list that year, I wrote down Final Fantasy VII, but being a 4-year-old at the time who wanted to seem smarter than he actually was, wanted to write out the full Roman numerals, but I added an extra I by accident. And I got 8. I got 8 instead. And
that's very funny.
Yeah. I wasn't really upset though, because I was like, oh, it's just a different Final Fantasy game. And it looks better, and right. The music is better, so surely it's a better game. How little I knew, but because of that, it ended up being my gateway to RPGs. And I always like to say, because 8 was my first RPG, it ended up kind of like conditioning me to like RPGs with really complicated battle systems. So like I can play the most overcomplicated RPGs now, and I'm always like, it's fine. I can figure it out. It also instructed me that stories for RPGs don't always make sense, and that they're sometimes extremely convoluted. And I think because of that, because I always joke with people when I tell them that 8 is my favorite Final Fantasy, which I'm not lying. It is my favorite, but I don't call it the best Final Fantasy by any means. It's such a nostalgic game for me that I hold it in that kind of special place. And like, it kind of like introduced me to like all these different genres, and it was basically my gateway into RPGs.
Right. No, I totally get that. It's very funny that you got 8 instead of 7 because of adding the extra number. My first Final Fantasy that I actually got into was 3 on the Super Nintendo, which is, like everybody knows, 6 in Japan. And I had I played 7? I don't remember. I think a buddy of mine was really into 7, and I always gave him shit about 7. And I told him that I kept telling him, like, this game fucking sucks. You need to play 6. 6 is the best one. 6 is better. And he just couldn't get into the sprite art.
Yep.
And a few years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, he messages me. He's like, I get it now. Final Fantasy 6 is amazing. I'm like, right? I've been telling you since we were like 10, and you didn't believe me. I did remember a neighbor of mine playing 8, and he would just keep doing the summons. And he was in one of the stages where you're playing as Laguna.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Laguna had a machine gun. I was like, just shoot the machine gun. And he wouldn't do it because the summons did a whole lot more damage. I tried to play it, and I couldn't find Laguna, and I just completely fell off the game.
Which is hilarious, because if you know what you're doing, the summons actually aren't better.
Right.
If you know what you're doing, you're just junctioning that shit to your weapons, so your weapons become more powerful.
Man, that game is strange. The whole junction system, and then having the enemies kind of like all scale with you, so you have to make it where you're the lowest level possible, so that the game is actually easier. It's very strange.
It's a very it is a very it's one of those games that like very clearly was ahead of its time in a lot of ways, but also was a bit misguided in its, like, a lot of the things it thought of are like RPG standards nowadays. It just didn't do anything it tried very well, I think, is the problem. Because, like, legitimately, you spend the majority of that game running from battles because you don't want to actually defeat enemies in that game. You just run in, you steal their magic because the draw system is a thing, and then you run away. You fight bosses because bosses don't give experience. You have to like junction your weapons because you don't buy new weapons. You have to upgrade them with like mechanical parts and magazines that you find. It's
so basically Final Fantasy VIII is the precursor to what's it called? Paper Mario: The Origami King, where there's no experience. You just have to like.
Well, there is experience somehow. There is experience in 8. You just don't want to get it.
That's so weird. Don't get experience in an RPG. That just sounds wrong.
Well, it's hilarious too because there's like a super boss that you can get very early in the game. That's legit just a magic lamp that like one of the early NPCs, NPC I think, non-player, NPCs give you. And if you rub the magic lamp, you essentially go to hell, and you have to fight Diablos, who is like this like demon from hell. Yeah, but he's one of the Guardian forces, so you want to beat him to get him on as a GF.
Yeah. Oh man, what game? If any game deserves a remake, is that one, because that game just seems like a whole mess and a half with how convoluted that combat system is.
It is an extremely flawed game, but I still love it to this day.
So that one got you into RPGs. I know that your two favorite RPGs are Persona 4 and Tales of the Abyss.
Yes,
those came later on PS2.
Yep, specifically Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, just because it's the definitive version of Persona 4. Tales of the Abyss, I could go either way between the PS2 or 3DS ports. I think PS2 looks better, but 3DS runs better.
So is the Persona 4 Golden Vita version different than the one that came out in consoles recently?
No, all the recent ports of Persona 4 are just based off the Vita port.
Okay, I see.
They actually run better than the Vita port because it's better hardware. I just prefer playing it on the Vita just because of nostalgic reasons.
I get it. When I played Persona 4 Golden when it came out on Vita originally, I think I still lived with my parents, and I had like this really nice speaker system. So I would plug the Vita into the speaker system just to listen to the combat music. And like one day I was playing it and my sister came in and she's like, "What the fuck are you listening to?" And I'm like, it's the Vita. So game I'm playing. She's like, "Oh, that song is good." And she left. It's like, fuck, is that all you came in here for?
I always laugh because Persona 4 Golden's like battle theme, Time to Make History, is like has such an epic riff to start. It's like the like dun 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 dun, and it just like goes on from there, which is hilarious because it is such a different theme compared to the one that was in the original Persona 4, which was reused as the special encounter theme in Golden.
Is that the one with the organs?
It's the one that like plays whenever like you have like a preemptive attack. It's the more J-poppy one.
Because I know Time to Make History, and then there's another one, another battle song. I don't remember the name. It's the one that I like the most because it has organs in throughout the entire song.
It might be that one. It's the theme that it's not like a boss theme. It just plays at like certain events. Mm-hmm. Like I think it's usually either preemptive or like sneak attacks. Like it'll play. Yeah, that was the
I,
original battle theme
that
in
that's
4,
gonna
though.
drive me. Yeah, that's gonna drive me crazy finding the name because I know there's two. Let me see if I can find the Persona 4 Golden soundtrack OST. It's a
Reach
playlist.
out to the truth. That's the
That
name of
one.
that's the song.
Yes, that one. I love that one.
Yeah,
That was a very, very good song.
I like that one. I like how they did it in Golden more, where it only plays during special occasions. Because I love the bass riff in like Time to Make History. It's just such a bopping song. But it's super funny playing that, and then you go back to 3, which 3 had like that really over the top like battle theme that played all the time.
Baby, 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 baby.
Yeah.
I can't wait to play the remake. I got so many games on my plate. I just need to finish them and just get to the remake.
I really wish sometimes I didn't play 4 first, because I think that's partially why I can't get into 3 as much.
I get it. So I played 3 first because again, my neighbor from across the street one day just started telling me everything about the game, how the main characters go to school and you get to make friends, but you also have to fight monsters in this tower during midnight, and to summon your persona you basically have to blow your brains out
Yeah.
with a special gun. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this game sounds insane. And I went to a store, I think it was called Play and Trade, where it was a retro game store, but they also had like modern games. And I traded in a bunch of, I think it was Super Nintendo games, and got Persona 3 FES. And that just like Tales of the Abyss, man, once I started playing, I was completely hooked to the point where I didn't want to do anything other than play that game.
Yeah. I think my problem was another issue with 3. Thankfully, I'm hearing that Reload has pretty much fixed all of my issues with the game. But for me, I think one of the problems was too, like, it was so confusing playing 3, because there was no like quote unquote definitive edition, because there's the original game, there's FES, which is it's basically the original game with a whole bonus added section after. There's
Right.
Portable, which is like it's the original game with an added party member. I should say a female main protagonist, and they cut out most of the non RPG gameplay because it wouldn't fit on the Vita, and they instead made it like a visual novel instead. Which
Yeah, so you got it. It's kind of like, have you played Persona 2?
yes,
So you know how you have the map and you move it around and you click where you want to go and then you're in there. It's kind of like that, but without the exploration.
yeah,
The only place where you actually get to explore is during Tartarus and whenever there's like a full moon,
yes,
where you actually have your entire party. That could arguably be said that that's the definitive edition until Reload came out, because it had so much more content. It didn't have FES, which is
it
sad,
had so
but
much more
you know,
content, but it didn't have the exploration and stuff that makes the Persona
right,
series so interesting.
right.
And it looks, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look very good nowadays.
No, that no. Well, luckily we got a remake. So another thing that pushed me back from 4 when it came out was that they just kind of like pulled out the carts and crushed them for the Persona to come out instead of blowing their brains out. I was like, I don't want to play this fucking game. They kind of like took away like the edgy fucking edgelord teenage bullshit
See,
that I love from 3.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not as big a fan of that. I love the Sunshine and Rainbows plot of Persona 4, which is hilarious because it's a murder mystery at the same time. But
Right.
I also just love like Persona 4. The whole meaning behind Persona 4 is the whole like idea behind like everybody has their flaws on the inside, and you're supposed to. It's basically the whole game's messages that you have to accept your flaws on the inside and make them part of you. It's not like one thing I didn't like about 5 was like 5. The plot was like it wasn't so much the party members were. Well, I mean, the party members were flawed, but it was just society itself was flawed. And
Right.
I didn't feel. I mean, like the first dungeon was amazing, but then it felt like it was like so hit or miss. Like some of them were really good, others not so much. Compared to like 4,
Yeah.
where like the cool gimmick with 4 is like all the dungeons are essentially they're highly exaggerated like representations of like the quote unquote party member or character that created the dungeon. and they're essentially just like the weird twisted exaggerations of their kind of like repressed inner like desires and thoughts, which is why like say Yukiko's is the it's like a castle because she considers herself like trapped and she's considers herself like a bird in a cage kind of. So like that's why her inner self, an exaggeration of that is she's like a princess and she wants to be like pampered by everybody. But in reality, it's like it's like a gross kind of like exaggeration of what she actually thinks, where it's more she just wants her independence, basically. But she also still cares about where she came from.
Which makes Kanji's very problematic.
See, Kanji's...
That one is very exaggerated.
See, that's Kanji's... I've gotten into so many arguments and debates about Kanji's dungeon because so many people miss the point of it. Where it's like they immediately so massive spoiler warnings for Persona 4. I'm just gonna say there, but a lot of people kind of jump right to their like, oh, does his inner thoughts mean he's secretly gay? And it's like, no, that's not what it means. It means he is repressing his inner. He's more in touch with his feminine side, say, and he likes like say sewing and that stuff. So he's repressing that, and the exaggeration of that kind of is like it exaggerates it into like this whole weird. I mean, you got to remember too, it's Japan, and Japan has way different standards than we do over here.
Right.
It's like this weird, like homosexual kind of like thing that he has going on. Plus, he's confused because he gets infatuated with Naoto, who he thinks is a man at the time, but is secretly a woman, masquerading as a man because of society. It's
right.
It's hard to explain it properly, but it makes a lot of sense when you actually play the game.
It does, and then I feel like for Kanji, there's no resolution at the end of the game. At least because Naoto kind of like figures out, oh, it's okay to be a woman, but she still dresses like a guy.
See, my theory is he's not gay. He is just obsessed with Naoto, basically, because he never shows.
That's how it feels like at the end.
Yeah, because you'll notice he never shows interest in anybody else. It's legit just Naoto. So I think he's just into Naoto. So that's basically it.
Right. I just fucking love Kanji, man. His scenes with Teddy are the best scenes in
Kanji's one of the best
the entire
characters.
game. Oh yeah, and to top it all off, he's voiced by Troy Baker. So on top of that, he has like one of the best voice actors voicing him for the entire time. So
yeah, the whole voice cast
fantastic.
in 4. The whole voice cast in 4 is so good.
Oh yeah, man. My brother-in-law's replaying it. It's playing it for the first time. And he texts me every once in a while. So I just did this. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He explains it to me like, oh, right. That happened in the game.
It is such a deep dive of a game.
Oh, yeah. He said he was in Risei's dungeon a couple of days ago. And he was telling me about it. I'm like, I don't remember any of that. I really need to replay this game at some point.
I love Risei's dungeon because the background music is legit just porno music the entire time. it's like, yep.
Yeah, the game is fantastic. It's so good. So basically you're how old right now?
I'm 29.
20. Okay, so it's not that big of an age difference, but you were playing Final Fantasy VIII when you were 4. I think I was like maybe 12 when I played that. Mm-hmm. But I did play it much later because I got a PS1 around like 2000, 2001. And that's when I decided to, try to play as many games as possible. So I played Mega Man Legends 1 and 2 and Final Fantasy Tactics and tried to get into Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and 9. And I got into the PlayStation 1 because my Santa brought me a PlayStation 1 and late when all the games were cheap. So at least I was kind of lucky enough there. But, you also said that you bought a PS3 on one of your episodes on G&C and that you got Sonic 06.
So I got the PS3 for Christmas of 2006, I want to say, the year it came out. And if for those PS3 veterans out there, everybody knows that there wasn't a lot to play when the PS3 came out by any means.
Oh, no.
So I remember I got the PS3, and the three games I got were Motorstorm, which was the pack-in.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the best game of the three, honestly. I got Lego Star Wars: The Complete Series, which was just the compilation that combined 1 and 2 together. And it's probably the best one out of all the Lego Star Wars games. And then I got Sonic 06. And boy, is that game something.
Oh yeah. For those that don't know, Sonic 06 is notorious for how broken and unfinished it is. And was that the game that made you realize that video games could be bad?
Well, so 2006, I was 11, so I wasn't even aware that it was bad. I was just like, this game's really hard for some reason, not knowing that I was struggling because the game was a fucking broken piece of shit.
I can just picture you like falling through the floor and going onto Game Facts and asking, why do I keep falling through the floor in this stage? How do I avoid that?
It was more I got to the end of Wave Ocean and died on the Mach Speed section and didn't realize you were supposed to save before you went into Wave Ocean. So then it would cut back to the fucking intro again. And I'd be like, fuck. I got stuck on Crisis City for like months because the speed section in Crisis City is bullshit on so many levels.
It's terrible.
Playing it now though, that game is fun as hell because it's so fun to just find different ways to break shit. Like I'll never forget like the snow level. You can kick like random rocks in that level, and sometimes they'll launch you into space.
Ah,
the physics will just break, and Sonic will just go off the screen. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fun.
So it's like doing Skyrim before Skyrim.
Kinda. Like the homing attack in 06 is broken. Like there's no, in most of the games, the homing attack only goes like forward, and homes in on enemies. In 06, there's like no like lock on its axis, so it defies gravity at times. And like if there's an enemy above you, you'll just like fly up towards the enemy sometimes. It's a wonderful experience to play.
Is that how they break the game and manage to like skid the water all the way to the end of the stage by doing the homing attack?
I'm not sure if it's the homing attack. There's like so many things in that game that are like glitchy. There's legit an item in the game that I bet was not programmed for this, but it legitimately just lets you jump infinitely. One of the characters is Gamma, the robot android.
Mm-hmm.
He has the ability to hover if you hold down the X button. And there's supposed to be like a little like meter that goes down when you press the button, but they forgot to program the meter to go down. So he kind of just gradually will go down, like will glide downward. But if you, rather than holding the X button or the B button on, or maybe it's the X button on A button on Xbox, if you tap it repeatedly, he just hovers infinitely, basically. It is insane how so many weird things in that game.
I remember that when the completionist finished it, like he just told like the audience, buy a copy of the game and record yourself burning it. So there were like hundreds of videos of people being stitched into his video of them burning copies of Sonic 06.
I wonder if they're regretting that now.
Right. Man, what a fucking game. That year, what was the other game that we got that year that wasn't that bad? Was it on the Wii?
Oh, Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Is that game bad, or is it? Or
it's
am I
not good.
Just making shit up?
It's not good. Arguably, it's worse because it's not fun to play. That's the one where it's motion controls, and you control Sonic with the Wiimote like on its side, and you turn left and right to make Sonic go left and right.
The fuck?
And you have to like
terrible.
You have to like fling the controller in the air to make him jump. It is awful. It is an awful game.
Oh god.
At the time, they all said it was great compared to 06, but nowadays it's like retroactively people are like, no, that game is shit. Like,
yeah. See, my extent with Sonic at that point, and probably still now, was Sonic Adventure Battle 2, which I hate every single stage that's not Sonic or Shadow, and the fighting game on GBA.
Oh, Sonic Battle.
Battle. Okay, I thought I had the name wrong, but no, Sonic Battle. I really, really fucking like Sonic Battle. That game was great.
That game is fun to play, but the storyline in that game is so fucking weird. Like, there's a point in that game where Amy is
isn't like Sonic like. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So there's like a whole bunch of things. The one thing I remember though is like Amy is like afraid of getting fat, so she's starving herself. I'm like, who put this in a Sonic game? Like, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Oh man, it's like, yeah, I don't eat because I don't want to gain weight because Sonic won't like me if I'm fat. And I'm like, this isn't a children's video game. Like, what the fuck am I reading right now?
Isn't like a major plot point that Sonic finds a robot in the trash or something,
yeah.
and then the robot learns from everybody?
Yeah, the Gemrol, the robot, who like you have to fight at the end. Spoiler warning.
Oh man,
I love the art.
Amy doesn't want to get fat.
Yeah, I love the art style in that game though. It had that really edgy look to it.
Isn't that like the art style with like the really thick black lines that kind of look like fire?
Yeah, and they were very like kind of like they looked like very comic bookish in a lot of ways. Like they just had this very like stylistic look to them.
That was a very, very cool art style. I wish they'd bring that back. Because my thing with Sonic is, right, the first video game I ever played was, I think it was Sonic 2. It was a Sonic game. I think it was 2 because I remember you could do the spin dash. Mm. And I beat Sonic Forces. So I have beaten a Sonic game, and I beat Sonic Advance 1 last year, and I never beat Sonic Battle, but I've always wanted to get into Sonic because it was, my first game, but then I started playing it and I'm like, I'm not having fun. Like I got Colors when it came out, tried it, hated it. The new one, I bought it on Switch by accident. It's way too fucking slow for me in the loading times. And I just don't know what to do with Sonic anymore.
Well, Generations is coming out. They're re-releasing Generations, so that's like usually the one I tell everyone to play. So maybe give that one a shot.
No, I'm definitely going to get that one because Shadow is my favorite Sonic character because he's Hedgehog Vegeta.
I love how like in Sonic lore, like Knuckles was like originally the Vegeta, and then they made an actual Vegeta for Sonic later on, and then Knuckles just became like
Knuckles is Piccolo,
basically. He's Piccolo if Piccolo was dumb, basically.
That's great. You know what's funny? It makes sense because my wife is in love with Piccolo. And she's also in love with Idris Elba, and Idris Elba voices Knuckles in the Sonic movie. So it's perfect. It's a very good comparison.
And Shadow's going to be in the third one, so that's going to be interesting.
And it's who was voicing it supposedly? Hayden Christensen is supposedly going to voice Shadow.
Oh, that's going to be either the greatest thing or the worst thing ever, and I'm looking forward to it.
I don't care if it's either. I am watching it, and I am going to love every second because oh my god! They got to do Escape from the City when Sonic is inevitably running through San Francisco, destroying everything.
I cannot wait until that game comes out, but I can't believe they actually went and called it Sonic X Shadow Generations. That is a risky Google search right there. I'm just gonna say now.
Right.
Like that is a name for the ages.
But no, I'm definitely gonna play it because I've always been interested in Generations. I have it on my wish list on the Xbox, and I've never pulled the trigger on it. But now that they added Shadow, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking buy it because I love Shadow. I bought Sonic Forces because I thought I could make a character that looks like Shadow, and I couldn't. But then they gave us like a very short Shadow DLC, and I absolutely fucking loved it because it was side-scrolling, old school Sonic with good platforming, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, unfortunately. I'm looking forward to this Shadow DLC though, because it'll be probably the best playable Shadow thing since uh, Adventure 2, I guess.
Yeah,
I was thinking,
they never put him in the advanced games. That was a missed opportunity. They should have put him in one of the advanced games.
He was never there. He was. I mean, he had his own game, but that's its own rabbit hole of shit right there.
Right.
He karate chops Eggman to death in one of the endings. It's great.
That's fucking great.
One of there's so many that game is like the definition of like mid 2000s like edgelord like insanity. But like there's one true ending to the game, but there's like a number of like different multiple endings that you can get like based on your, because the game has this weird multiple progression system that's not particularly well designed, but that's besides the point. But in all the endings, he has like different outcomes. Like there's like the evil ending, the good ending, the neutral ending, the like neutral good ending, and then the neutral evil ending. And each one of those endings has both a good and evil version of how it can end. So the good ending has an evil, weird shit. But my favorite is one of the neutral endings is Shadow like thinks he's an android, and he's like, "I am Shadow Android, creation of Dr. Robotnik. This is who I am." And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then in another one, he karate chops Eggman to death. It's great.
I need to see him karate chop Eggman to death.
He just comes up to him and he's like, "Goodbye, doctor." And you just see him do like the karate chop animation. And you just hear Mike Pollock scream, "No," in the background.
It would be great if that was a scene in the Sonic 3 movie where Hayden Christensen's Shadow karate chops Jim Carrey's Eggman to death.
I'm so glad Jim Carrey's coming back for that. Like, he carried those first two movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was the wedding scene in 2 where I completely zoned out, but once that was over, I was back in because he was so good at being Eggman.
He just chewed the scenery the entire time he did that movie.
Right? Like, I forced my wife to watch both movies. Is it the second one where he has like the dance number, or was it the first one?
I think it's the second. I haven't watched them in forever, so I'd have to rewatch. But I think it was the second one.
Yeah. So when he starts doing the song, she's like watching it, and then when it's done, she's like, "That was fucking great!" Like, I really like that part. Like, it's just Jim Carrey being weird and dancing. That's all this movie needed.
See, I love the fact that the original trailer for that movie was so bad that the director actually apologized and actually like went through with fixing it and making it better. Like he actually like was like, he's like, "Okay, I get it. You don't like it. I promise to fix it." And he actually did it.
Right. It's like Sonic with teeth. That was the weird little baby teeth. That was just strange.
See, there was the whole conspiracy theory that was all like a setup just to draw attention. I'm like, there's no way they would like make an entire like trailer just to throw away. Like I can't see them wasting money doing that. Like I did not buy the whole conspiracy theory. I think they legit fucked up and they actually fixed it.
I could see that because Marvel kind of does the same bullshit. Like in the Endgame trailers, like at the end they would put like all of the characters just going to fight Thanos, and then when you actually watch the movie, none of those characters were there. So they would make misleading trailers on purpose. So in this post-Marvel universe world, I could see it happening.
Yeah. I don't know. I just can't really see them purposely tanking a movie like that. Like with like the small % chance that they might be able to win everyone back if they don't if they do fix it. I just feel like there was too much risk there, but
people were weird the entire time about the Sonic movie being a live action, CG human kind deal. But it worked out. It's one of the better live action CG movies out there.
I mean, it's better than the Mario movie in my opinion. Which isn't saying the Mario movie's bad. It's more just the Mario movie's a giant advertisement, basically.
Yeah, I The only thing I don't like about the Mario movie is Chris Pratt, because he has moments where he just slips straight into Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
But the Sonic movie's way better. I enjoyed those a whole lot more.
The Sonic movie's at least like interesting. Like to me, like the problem with the Mario Brothers movie is it is an entertaining watch, but there is so much in that movie that's like, this is clearly an advertisement to kids, or this is clearly, look at this reference, like look at this over here.
Right.
Pop culture music that doesn't fit into anything going on, but we're gonna throw it in there anyways. Like,
right. Like the one thing was and the misuse of, because I honestly think it was a misuse of Charles Martinet, having him be Jumpman and then being Mario's dad. He could have done so much more in that movie,
especially because
then,
this was like one of his last real performances too, because he retired from the role shortly after.
Right, and then they have like a bunch of like little Easter eggs, which I appreciate, but you know, I kind of want to see more than just the R-Wing sitting on top of Mario's Super Nintendo, or you know, the pizza place being called Punch Out Pizza or something like that.
Yeah. Or the what was the other one? Or the freaking the DK rap just appearing in the middle of it, which to me was both amazing and at the same time I was like, no one's gonna get this joke unless you're old,
right? and that's another thing. They used the DK rap and they didn't credit Grant Kirkhope in the credits for that song.
They credited the song from Donkey Kong 64, but they did not credit him, which. Yeah, unfortunate.
Ah, man,
I was bummed they didn't use any more. I was bummed they didn't use any more Donkey Kong music, because they could have totally used Donkey Kong Country, like David Wise stuff in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the inevitable sequel. Hopefully, it's a bit more tight, because like I said, I enjoyed it, but you know, I wish Chris Pratt would have been more reined in and more into the role. And,
yeah.
You know, Jack Black was fucking amazing. He was great.
Jack Black was really good. I liked Charlie Day as Luigi, even though he does barely anything in the movie.
Yep. And what's her name? Anya Taylor-Joy was pretty good as Peach.
Yeah, we had Girl Boss Peach in that film, which I thought was actually pretty entertaining, because Peach has been so fucking useless in Mario for so many years.
Right. And then the one game they give her powers are her emotions.
Yes.
Cry everything to death.
Yeah, that was such that game did not age well, I will say, in a lot of ways.
No.
Like the best Peach's best appearances in games have definitely been like Mario RPG and Super Paper Mario.
Oh, the side scroller Super Paper Mario. Yeah. I tried replaying Super Princess Peach. Oh, excuse me. I'm pulling a Threk. Jesus Christ. Super Princess Peach on the DS a while back, and it felt weird to play. Like it just felt slightly off. And then I realized it's because you're yeah, no. Then I realized you have to like pretty much be in your emotions the entire time for it to feel like a decent game. But hopefully this new one is better, because I've seen bits and pieces of it and it looks kind of good. The one with the costumes and stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm optimistic, because Nintendo has been killing it with games lately, so
Yeah. Hopefully we have a direct soon. They announced Pikmin 5 with a release date for this year, and I'm just never going to stop wanting more Pikmin.
Yeah.
I gave up on Star Fox because I don't think Nintendo's ever going to give us a Star Fox.
A rumor dropped that they're thinking about making a new one, but it's not confirmed by any means.
Yeah, it's supposedly it'll release with the Switch 2. I don't think they would release Star Fox with a Switch 2. Like, that's not a console release game.
We'll be lucky if
Odyssey 2, but
yeah, we'll be lucky if we get any more info on Prime 4 at this point. Like
that I don't think that's going to happen. I've been just keep rebooting it.
Yeah, I've been joking for like 2 years now that it was just a fever dream that we all dreamt up.
Oh yeah, right. It,
Uh,
like you go to YouTube, you search Metroid Prime 4, nothing shows up.
it's like,
But everybody remembers the announcement trailer.
yeah, it's gonna be a Mandela effect thing. It's like, do you remember Prime
Right.
4? It's like, what? What was Prime 4? You mean Metroid Dread?
Right. We when they turned on the Hadron Collider at CERN and the dimensions collided, Metroid Prime 4 was in the dimension that got left behind. So
Yeah. So if it's over there with Final Fantasy versus 13 and all those other.
versus 13.
What a stupid name for a game.
Right. Right. That was a whole mess in itself too. It ended up becoming 15, and 15 is strange.
15 is a game that
is a
starts off really
game.
great and then it just falls off a cliff towards the end.
I haven't played the DLC. Have you played it? The DLC for the game? No.
I did my initial playthrough and I lost interest after that.
So I do want to replay the DLC because Final Fantasy 15 is the greatest waste of time one of the greatest waste of times that I've ever played. I never want to play it again, but I do want to play the DLC. And I say that because the entire journey is it's good, but then you get to the ending, and then the ending is not good. You know, you fight, the last boss has question mark for his level.
Yeah, that was lame.
It means nothing. Yeah, it's terrible. So everything you did throughout the entire game had no consequence at the end because you were going to beat the final boss, even if you were still level 1.
Yeah, my hype for 15 was like, it started off like super high. And then as I played through it, it just progressively got less and less until I got to the end. I'm like, I didn't enjoy any of that. And I just like gave up on it. At least I know 16 people are kind of starting to turn on 16 at this point. I like 16 still. It's to me, it's still the best Final Fantasy I've played since 10 in a lot of ways.
I really, really like 16. I just wish it would have been, I wish they would have committed more to one style of game or to the other, because it feels like it's stuck somewhere between Devil May Cry and the Ubisoft open world game.
Yeah.
And I wish they would have committed to either, all right, let's make this a full action game, or let's make it into a real full RPG.
Yeah.
Because the side quests are god fucking awful. They're so tedious and
My
so
favorite-
time consuming.
My favorite one is, I dropped this rock. Can you go get it, please? And I was like, really? I'm like, okay.
Right. Say because like the thing is, like, every story beat is great. It's fantastic. Like the fight with Titan, the fight with Bahamut. I have problems saying that word. The final fight, all of the fights are great, and those moments where you're like going straight in a line, fighting a bunch of enemies, trying to get to the end of like one area, it's great. But you know, the open world stuff and the side quests are not it.
Yeah. I did enjoy the combat, and I like the characters, though. Like, I know some people found the characters kind of bland. I liked them, though. Like, they were definitely... Like, it's not in my top 5 Final Fantasies by any means. But it was definitely, like... I enjoyed my entire experience all the way through, and I felt satisfied when I finished it.
Right. Yeah, same here. Like, that ending was like a perfect ending for this game. And I liked Clive a lot, especially post Sid. I really liked Clive. I fucking love Sid. Sid was
Cool.
best character. Every time that Sid showed up, I fangirled the entire time because Sid was fantastic.
I really liked Jill. I just wish they did more with her.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, because
people can't see it, but I have a poster of Jill on the wall there.
that's such a cool poster. Yeah, I agree, because the most they did was Jill was her revenge story, and it was good, but I feel like they could have done more with her too.
She was such a cool character, though, because she wasn't like stereotypically portrayed like a lot of like females in RPGs tend to be, but she was also like, she had like actual interesting like story behind her. They just didn't do enough with it. I think that was the big problem.
Right. Man, this is Final Fantasy 16. Hopefully they get it right for the next one, because I feel like they were going in a good direction. They just didn't commit.
I think
100% to one way or the other.
I think the big issue they have right now is that they're doing 16 and then simultaneously they're also doing 7 remake, and there's like these two different styles that are just kind of conflicting with each other. Because I'm not the biggest fan of the 7 remake. Like something about it just turned me off compared to like the original. I think it's because I just wanted a straight up remake and not this complete reimagining that they're doing now.
I can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see that, because that is the same way that a lot of people think about the remake. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of 7 growing up. I played the remake begrudgingly because I had to. You know, it's the game that came out, everybody's talking about. I don't want to be left out. But then the end started happening, and I was like, oh, okay, I like where this is going. And then, you know, spoilers, you see Zack, and I was like, oh, shit, okay. And Zack is my favorite character from Final Fantasy VII because, you know, Crisis Core is fucking incredible. And they're bringing him back, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in this. Invested 100%. I want to see where this goes.
I'm interested in where it's going. I have some reservations. I'm happy that they've pretty much established that it's a different universe at this point. Like, it's not the same universe as the original game. I'll see. Like, I'm gonna pick up Reunion when that comes out. So, or is it? It's Reunion, right?
Yeah, Reunion. Wait, no. Yeah. Rebirth.
Rebirth. That's right. Reunion was the
Rebirth.
Crisis Core remake.
Right.
I mean, I'm gonna pick it up regardless. I'm just kind of like, I don't know, something about that. I think like the hype was like so high, and when it finally came out, I was like, this isn't really what I wanted, but it's still good, I guess.
Like it slogs a lot at the beginning. Like, it's very, very slow at the beginning. Not Midgard. The slumps are just not interesting at all. They're not. But then everything else around it, like, you know, going to the reactors, invading the Shinra building, you know, fighting Sephiroth a couple of times, that is all, at least I think, pretty interesting. So I think it suffers from that early game setting.
Yeah, which is
the entire game just take place in one place. So,
which is interesting to me though, because like most people who are fans of 7 like to say that the most interesting part of the game is Midgar.
So I like Midgar. I don't care for the slumps. The slumps are just, they do nothing. So.
True. You didn't spend a lot of time in them in the original. You kind of were just like one place to another.
Right. So it kind of feels bloated because, you know, they kind of force you to be there for like 15 hours before you get to like the actual game stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to see where they go. I want to see what they do with Zack. I am very interested in what they do with Yuffie, because the Yuffie DLC was fucking incredible. Did you play it?
I don't think I did, actually, now that I think about it.
So the Yuffie DLC follows her breaking into Midgard to steal something, and it is... I feel like they figured out what they wanted to do with Final Fantasy VII in that DLC. So if they bring that same gameplay design and energy into Rebirth, it's gonna be fantastic, because that DLC was fucking great.
I'm cautiously optimistic. So I mean, I'm gonna get it regardless eventually. There's too many goddamn games coming out right now.
Oh yeah, man. I swear, it was 2 weeks ago, on Monday, 2 weeks ago, I realized that Like a Dragon
Infinite Wealth
came out that Friday. I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot to pre-order. So I took the Friday off so I could go find a store that had the game. And then on Sunday, I'm like, oh shit, Persona Reload comes out, because I started seeing the reviews popping up everywhere. I'm like, fuck, I need to go pre-order this game somewhere.
Yeah. And then it's like you go and play. It's like they're all RPGs too, and it's like I just don't have time to play these RPGs.
Right, and Prince of Persia came out, and I was excited to play it, but I couldn't because I was playing Star Ocean. So now I still have Prince of Persia sitting on the backlog waiting to be played. Plus, I have a whole bunch of games right there, all still wrapped up in their packaging that I bought that I haven't been able to touch yet.
There's just so many games. And it's like, plus if you're like a retro gamer like me, I've got just like stacks of games I gotta play. Like I'm playing Lunar 2 again. I really want to get through. Persona 4.
That's one that I'm going to do this game. This year I'm going to do Lunar 2 and 1.
Nice. Those are classics that we just need back, but
yeah,
probably never will.
Yeah, no, and on top of that, I stopped collecting console games. I'm not collecting GameCube, Wii U, whatever anymore because I have the Steam Deck. So Steam Deck can pretty much run everything. But I still want to collect DS and 3DS. So, I picked up the Spectros games 1 and 2. So I'm waiting for them to arrive. And then yesterday I saw that Golden Sun DS was like $30 with shipping and everything. So I picked that up too. So I just keep buying like DS games that I'm probably never going to play, even though I really want to.
Yeah, like the DS is such a fun console, like to collect for, because there's so many games on it that I've completely missed. Like I just picked up the 2 Izuna games, like the Unemployed Ninja. They're basically just mystery dungeon games, but
how much did those run you? Because those are pricey, aren't they?
I paid $300 for both of them. Oh, it was like I think one was like $150, and then I think they were both. I think that I made a deal with the guy. I think because it was the store owner. I knew the store owner, so he gave me a deal. It was like $150 a piece, which I think was accurate for 2, but I think he cut me a deal on 1 because I bought them together, so it was like $300 total.
Whew. Yeah, that oh man, that's pricey. I managed to get Avalon Code for $70. Aaron's still mad at me for it because he posted it on Twitter. And I looked at it and found it and sent him a screenshot immediately when I bought it. And he's like, "You motherfucker."
I have my copy too. I should just like tag him in and be like, "Hey, Aaron, look."
He's like, "I want to get a copy so bad." And I told him, I found it for $70. You just got to dig like between the shit to find it.
You know what another one for that. You know what another one on DS that's really good that gets completely forgotten? Did you ever play or hear of Contact?
I found it, actually. I went to Dragon Con last year and I saw it for $80 and I was going to buy it. Like I had it in my hand ready to buy it from the booth. I was like, wait, let me check eBay. And eBay had it for like $50, so I managed to get it for $50. CIB and everything for...
See, when eBay. I paid $70 for my copy, and this was... So it had shot up to like over $100 on eBay by that point.
It's come down a lot now.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah, it's come down because you pretty much can find it for between $50 and $60 now.
Okay. Damn, I wish I knew. Oh, well.
Yeah. I don't know what the game is about. I know I heard a podcast where they were talking about it, and I thought it sounded cool and forgot all about it. So now I just have a copy sitting around waiting for it to be played.
Got that cool, like, Earthbound-ish kind of look to it, and it's by Grasshopper, which is the same studio that did, like, Lollipop Chainsaw and, like, No More Heroes. So I was very interested in giving it a shot. I still haven't had time to sit down and play it, though.
Okay. Yeah, I think I heard something that you have like different jobs that you could do. Like you could be a chef or whatever. And if you're a chef, like you attack with knives or like spatulas or some shit like that. So I'm definitely interested in playing it. But yeah. No. And DS collecting is fucking crazy. I'm going to New York next week. And I am already making a list of all the retro game stores that I want to go to because I am just grabbing as many DS games as I see.
Yeah. It's insane with like those games too, because like all the Pokemons are like $100 a piece now, which is insanity.
It is. It's fucking crazy. I got lucky and bought hard gold and soul silver for like $140 a piece, and now they're like almost $200 each.
I'm just so glad I bought most of those at launch, so I kind of. My biggest score ever was like I got platinum at a GameStop for like $20 in the bargain bin. I was like, oh platinum. Shit. I don't have this one. And then like 3 years later, it's like $200. I'm like, what the hell? Like, when did this happen?
Right.
Like another crazy one is like Pokemon Coliseum and XD. Those are both like $100 a piece games now. I got those in like GameCube bargain bins for like $5 a piece. Because like there was a point where GameCube was like worthless and no one cared about it.
Yeah, I remember. Now, the Fire Emblem Path of Radiance was one GameCube game that never went down in price. I bought that full price when it came out. Stupid ass me traded it in, and then I saw it like a couple of months later, and it was like $70 at GameStop. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is this game so expensive?
It's weird.
It just kept climbing from there.
I bought my copy right after, first Fire Emblem I played was Awakening on the 3DS, like most people. And I fell in love with that game. Like, it was for a long time one of my favorite games of all time. And because I was so into that game, I went out of my way to get the rest of the series that was released in America, which was a very expensive undertaking. Because I paid, I think at the time, Path of Radiance was $200. Because this was right after the Fire Emblem boom. Because right after Awakening came out, the franchise exploded, and I bought it begrudgingly, and I enjoyed it. And then it dropped down to 90 like a year later, and I was like so pissed. And then it's since shot right back up to 200, so I'm not that upset now. But
yeah, but still, I've been keeping an eye out for the Wii sequel, and
Radiant
same
Dawn.
shit.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't go down. It never goes down.
Now that franchise is only going to get more expensive just because of how popular it is. It's like one of Nintendo's biggest series now, which is insane because it almost died.
Right.
Like Awakening was their Hail Mary game.
If only the same thing would happen with Star Fox. I would be so happy. If
unfortunately,
my copy of Star Fox 3DS was worth like $200, I'd be so happy.
Isn't that one pretty expensive though? I heard it's up there now.
Let me take a look at GameWay. Because I was looking at it the other day, and it was a little bit higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I feel
Star Fox 49. Wow.
Okay, that's not as bad as I thought, because I think at one point it was going for like 80.
Ooh. Actually, Command is going for close to 80 because it's new would be $69 plus 12 depending on the condition.
Command is not worth $80.
You know, you say that, but I do like that game.
I mean, the gameplay is fine, but the story is batshit insane.
Yeah, it is.
Fox joins the F-Zero circuit at one point in that game. It is like the most... That game is literally just how many ways can we kick Fox McCloud in the nuts while he's down?
Right.
It is such a weird... And especially because it comes right after Assault, and Assault ended on such a good note. Like, it was like, what happened in between these two games?
So Assault goes for 94, and Adventures goes for 93.
GameCube tax. I got both of those in bargain bins too. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, when I bought Adventure, the first time that I bought it was for $20 at a KB Toys. So
I remember for the longest time, like, people were like, Adventures is a hidden gem, and I'm like, okay. And then I played. I'm like, it's just an average Zelda clone. Like, it's not bad, but it's not this hidden gem by any means.
Yeah, I think people call it a hidden gem because, you know, it's Star Fox, and so everybody overlooked it because it wasn't a space shooter. And like the space shooter segments are not great.
No, they're so tacked on.
Serviceable at best.
And then the final boss is the most ridiculous thing ever in a game. It's like, oh, Andros has been here the whole time, and now the final boss is a shooting segment that is nothing like the rest of the game that you've been playing at this point. And it's like, oh, geez. That was such a weird time for that series. And then Assault was... I'm an Assault defender. I love that game more than a lot of people do. But even that game, it has its issues.
What I don't like about Assault is the open world segments where they give you the option of being on foot, tank, or ship. Those stages I don't like. The linear stages, now those are fucking great.
Oh yeah, all the space
Especially
stuff is really
that opening.
Good. The on foot segments are, I mean, they're not nearly as good, but like some of them are better than others. Like I really like the one in the space station just because it ended with a Star Wolf battle with that amazing orchestral version of the Star Wolf theme.
Right. This on foot shooting is not bad once you fix the controls, because you have to go in and change it to like the dual stick, and then on top of that you have to invert it so that it actually feels correct.
Yeah, they had like,
it's actually good.
They had like 3 versions. One was like the weird version that comes default. There's like the twin stick version, which once you get it right is probably the best way. And then there's the one that tries to make it like a weird like mouse and keyboard style that just doesn't work at all.
Oh, man, fucking that was Namco, right?
It was, I believe, made by members of the Ace Combat team, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
And you can understand why they had no idea what they were doing making on-foot segments.
Man, hopefully we get something soon, because I played Zero last year for an episode I did with Keith from Main Quest, and I loved it. I thought it was a great game. It has a shit ton of issues, and it's never going to get ported out of the Wii U. That game is stuck on the Wii U. It's not going to work outside of the Wii U.
The biggest problem with Zero was great. Like Zero had so much promise. The controls are just so unnecessarily complicated for no reason. Like Miyamoto, sometimes like Miyamoto's a genius, but sometimes you got to just hit him with a stick and be like, "Stop!" Like
See, I feel like that was a Miyamoto / Iwata mess. I think that was both of them fucking shit up for no reason.
Like Miyamoto sometimes, like, he is a genius, but sometimes he tries like way too hard to be unique, and to the point where it's a detriment to the game he's working on. Like Zero is like the biggest example of him needing to just calm down a little bit and just let the game be.
Right. Because I managed to get the game working in a way where I wouldn't have to use the tablet as much. I still had to use it, but I got through most of it without using it. But that final boss, there's no way to beat the final boss without the tablet.
Yeah.
And I struggled, but it was still a great game. And the thing is that the game has a bunch of alternating paths, so every playthrough can be different because there's so many different ways for you to finish the story. Someday I'll replay it, but not anytime soon.
I remember a lot of people were mad too that it was a reboot and it was basically just 64 again. But I was like, are you really surprised it's a reboot? I mean, look where Command ended. Where were they going to go from there?
Crystal left Fox. Fox was depressed.
Joined F-Zero.
Made him join F-Zero. And the other ending, Andrew's nephew becomes the new Andros.
Isn't this the other one where Fox leaves Crystal and she becomes an evil bounty hunter for no reason?
Right.
It's like, what the hell is this?
Then the other ending where Star Wolf becomes the new Star Fox because Star Fox just let everyone down.
Yeah. And then there's like the quote unquote good ending where like Fox and everyone has kids and they're the new Star Fox and Falco's the Peppy, which is the most hilarious thing to me.
Falco's the Peppy, right? I forgot about that ending.
That's like the most tame one, like least depressing one.
Right. And because the thing is, almost every good Star Fox game is a reboot. So there's the first Star Fox, which is the original. Then 64 is a reboot of that. And then Zero, which would be the next reboot, is a reboot of that on top of everything.
And then 3D was a remake of a reboot.
Right.
We did get 2. We did get 2 finally. They gave us 2 officially.
Yes, 2 was weird.
It's fun playing it now because you realize how much of 2 was like lifted into both 64 and then later Command.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Command did it better. It's a whole lot more manageable in Command, but 2 is still a pretty decent game. Just 2, it can be done in like half an hour, but still.
What bothers me about 2 is the fact that they didn't release it because it was clearly done.
Yeah, it was. The ROM was floating around in the internet for years. and it was pretty much done.
Yeah, and what's sad too is Nintendo basically screwed over Argonaut by doing that, because like they put so much of their actual money into making that, and Nintendo just said, "Yeah, we're not going to release it. Sorry." And we're not going to compensate you for it either.
Man, Nintendo can be shitty at times.
Well, because they
didn't they do the same thing with the PlayStation with Sony?
Well, what happened was they wanted to make a 3D Mario game where you played as Yoshi, and Nintendo turned it down and basically just said, "No, that's dumb." So then they left Nintendo and went to make it for the PlayStation, and it became Croc.
Croc, yeah. Oh man, fucking Nintendo. Sometimes somebody's got to like grab Nintendo and shake him and be like, "What the fuck are you doing? Get your shit together."
Nintendo is literally like the definition of like 2 steps forward, like 6 steps back.
It is.
Like for every great decision they make, there's so many shitty decisions.
Right.
But they're killing it right now, so they can get away with it.
Right? Like they don't have to worry about anything. They've been around for more than 100 years. They got a war chest full of money. They can fuck up as much as they want.
Have you seen the sales numbers for like all the Switch games, like particularly the Nintendo published ones? They're all like in the double-digit millions, and I'm like, Jesus, like when, like they're just printing money here at this point.
Now that you say that, I think I saw like Pikmin 3 Deluxe sold like 4 million, and Nintendo considered it a failure.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? In what world does 4 million mean failure?
Because you look at like the sales numbers for like Zelda, Mario Kart, and like Mario Odyssey, and you're like, oh, that's why.
No, it can't compare. Like people get burnt out. I would get burnt. I'm burnt out on Zelda right now. I don't want to play anything remotely close to what they've done with Zelda lately, and I'm sick of the side-scrolling Marios. They need to stop. They need to do something else.
Controversial opinion, but I did not find Mario Wonder that fun.
Oh, me neither. I dropped it. Like I kept forcing myself to play it, and when it got to me replaying the same stage for the 4th time, I was out. I am not gonna put my time into a game like that.
I won't deny it's a great game. Like I see why people like it, but I just can't. Like 2D Mario's just never did it for me anyways. I always preferred the 3D ones.
Right. And like I like the way it looks and the way it sounds and the animation and everything. But I am not gonna do that time sync with it because it's too much. It's way too much.
No, that's for sure.
So we're at almost an hour 30. Let's go ahead and call it for now. Bill, thank you for being on. Plug G&C and Geek Addicts and 3DO and all that stuff. And go ahead, floor's yours.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, dude. This was a fun little chat. So if you guys want to find me, you can find all of my links over at linktree/thebarberwhogames, and that's where you can find Gaming and Collecting, my main podcast that releases every Saturday. I've got 3DO every Wednesday, and then we've got Geek Addicts every Tuesday. And all of them are weekly. We kind of change it up with different topics every week. And that's pretty fun time. We also have a Discord server, the G&C Podcast Network. You can come over and we find all our updates on the shows. Talk anime, gaming, all sorts of stuff. And we're also releasing our episodes on YouTube now, so you can see some fun live action versions of the podcast as well.
Get to see Thrak.
Yep.
So yeah, like I said, I'm going to put the link tree in the description, in the show notes, so you guys can go click on it, go find everything, listen to Bill and his sister, Bill and Thrak, or Bill and Matt. It's all great stuff. They do cover pretty much anything nerd culture, so if you are some type of nerd, probably going to find something to enjoy. I know I do. So thanks for being on again, Bill. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, we'll have to work something else out to bring you back on and maybe talk Persona 4 some more or something like that.
We'll talk Tales of the Abyss eventually. That'll.
Oh, eventually. I gotta make time for that game, man, because it's due for a replay real bad.
I think we're doing that one. We'll do Senran Kaguya eventually as well.
Yes, eventually. Oh, I managed to get a copy of the DS game, the 3DS game.
Oh, nice.
After I thought I had it, which I didn't, I managed to get a copy. So CIB still sealed and everything. So
nice.
So yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Bill, do you want to say goodbye to everyone?
Hey, everyone, have a good time. See you later.
All right, goodbye everyone.